Hey, it's your girl Nautica de la Cruz for 102.3 KJLH and KJLHradio.com. It is my pleasure to have here and sitting next to me a legend, a record mogul. He is responsible for many careers such as Mariah Carey, Toni Braxton, Justin Bieber, Kanye, TLC, Outkast, just to name a few. Please help me welcome Antonio L.A. Reid. How are you?
I love how you say Antonio. I haven't heard it quite like that before.
Well, I'm Puerto Rican, so I got to roll my R's, my N's, and everything.
I love it, though. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you
it's
so much.
wonderful. First of all, I want to welcome you to L.A. I know that you haven't been to Stevie Wonder Station in quite some time.
Quite some time. It's been a couple of years since I've spoken to Stevie, too, so I got to do my shout-out to Stevie. What's
Go
up,
ahead.
Stevie? Miss you, love you, and I still listen to you daily.
There you go. Now, speaking of Stevie, was he one of your inspirations when you were growing up?
Oh, my God, was he? You know, My Sharia Moore
Yes.
was my song, man, as a kid. Like, that was my love song for my first love.
Okay.
And the girl didn't even know I loved her because I was like 12. But that was the soundtrack to my first love. Like, and when that song comes on, I still,
You have that feeling?
I still have that feeling.
Does she pop in your mind from time to time when you hear it?
The good news is I don't remember what she looks like, right? I just remember the feeling.
Okay.
And it was Stevie's music, and Stevie's music was also like coming of age music. When he made Music of the Mind, it was like a coming of age for music and for music people, right? And it was the first time that he ventured out and did an album that was, how do I say it, cerebral,
Right.
and not just hits. Right, so yeah, I really identify with Stevie.
You do have a love. When I was reading your book, the first 30 pages, you talk about being introduced to all kinds of music, from Stevie to rock to pop to funk to disco, and you don't discriminate from all those genres of music. But I also know that your uncle inspired you to and opened your mind to learn all this kind of music. And with music today, do you still feel that in your heart?
Yes, it's exactly why I can do what I do professionally. And it's also like a headache at times because I don't see the genres necessarily. I have to ask people at the company sometimes, like, is this black? 'Cause I really don't know, right, Tracy?
Right.
Sometimes I really don't know, and they'll be like, LA, that's pop. And I'm like, man, I don't know. Like,
Right.
I just know it's good. I know good from bad.
Okay.
But I don't really always know the genre.
I got you. Now, speaking of genre, I remember when when you were introduced to Outkast, you didn't know what hip hop was.
No.
You were introduced by I think, one of your assistants, and then Outkast became this huge group. I remember when they got signed, and I was doing college radio, and nobody wanted to play them. Not the big stations, and I was always that trailblazer. Like, I'm going to play what people don't want to play.
Right.
And they just picked up. They really did. And then the next thing you know, they became this huge group.
It took a lot of time, but yes, that was a little bit of the issue when I met Outkast. I remember when we first got Players Ball, the first single from Outkast. And it was also at the time that Kenny and I, Babyface and I, it was literally at the time when he and I had officially stopped producing songs together.
Okay.
And I remember running into Tom Joyner, and he said, so what's up with you, right? And he said it almost like, you're over. And I was like, in my head, I didn't answer him, but in my head I was like, but I have the #1 rap record, and I bet you didn't even know I did rap music at all. But it was a funny time period. Isn't it funny how people pick sides?
Yes.
Right, and I was thrown to the curb immediately. And by the way, Kenny and I are still best friends and still do all kinds of stuff together. But at that moment, you made me remember it, is when Outkast entered my life. It was at the very same time that Kenny and I stopped. And people, no kidding, people said I was done. Because people really didn't think that I did anything. They thought that I was just Babyface's convenience partner. They didn't really think I did anything. People still didn't. They don't even know that we worked together.
Right.
We wrote together. We produced together. I wasn't a leech.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm a leech now, but I wasn't a leech then.
And who are you leeching off of?
Everybody. No.
Now, speaking of, you said you were behind Outkast. You revived the career of Mariah Carey with Emancipation of Mimi. You revived Jennifer Lopez.
J-Lo.
What is in your brain? Because I want to pick your brain here. It's a nice dome that you got there. What is in your brain that you go, I got something, this is going to be your next hit, and it's going to go from there, you're going to skyrocket again? What tinkles in your brain that says this is the next thing for you?
A feeling. When I hear a song and I think about the artist that we're thinking about. And by the way, it's not always that I find their music for them. They find their own. I do help artists find music, and I sometimes play songs on albums for artists. I used to do it a lot more, but now I deal with the more self-contained artists. So they'll bring me the music, and I'll listen to it. But I'm listening for a sound, first of all. Like, I try to make sure, okay, I can kind of keep up with if it's dated or not. But what I'm really looking for is the feeling, the same feeling we talked about when I heard My Sharia Moore and it was Stevie Wonder. It's the same feeling. The feeling doesn't change. The sound of the music changes, but the feeling doesn't change, you know. And I'm really looking to wake up or awaken a feeling, and that feeling makes me know it's a hit.
I see.
Right.
And that's funny because your book, L.A. Reid, Sing to Me, My Story of Making Music, Finding Magic, and Searching for Who's Next, you talk about the feeling in it as well.
Yes.
It is one of the key elements in your book.
Major key alert. It's all about the feeling.
And you knew it from being very young in your struggles, coming up as an artist as yourself and being a drummer as well and being part of the deal. You knew that feeling. You knew you were going to get to the next level. You just didn't know when.
Right.
Or how fast, but you knew it in your heart.
Yes, it's true. I think of it as if you envision something for yourself and you're willing to put in the work, and if you're good at what you do, I mean, you can't discount being good at it. You can have all the commitment and determination in the world, but if you don't have some level of talent for what you love, then it won't work. But if you do, and you really commit yourself, I think that you can create the future that you want to have, and you can create the person that you want to be.
Now let's talk about when you left and you went to Atlanta and you guys started LaFace. Right. And it felt like Atlanta was a place, a gold mine of talent, but you weren't really familiar with the city, and you started this new company, and you kind of put your A and B together, and you were like, I got to make something out of this.
Yes.
And what was, for someone who's trying to start either their own record business or company or be in the music industry, what was that one thing that you said, this is going to make it work for me? Because you went in as an artist, but you had to learn how to be an executive.
Yes. When we got to Atlanta, we were pretty accomplished as producers and songwriters. We were just starting our label, and I knew not the first thing about it. Right? I really knew nothing. I knew we needed an office, so we got an office.
Okay.
And then one day, I was sending Clive Davis a letter, and my assistant said, "Do you want to make a copy to keep for your files?" Files. I said, so we got. And then she said, "But we can't make a copy unless I go to." I forgot the place where you go get the copies.
The Xerox place. I know.
Or you get a Xerox machine. Xerox. So, like, one by one, we figured it out. Like that, literally like that, right? I mean, we knew nothing. I remember some guy came in and said, should I talk to human resources about my compensation? I was like, human resources, what's that? I'm like, okay, I got to go find a human resources person. So I literally learned it from the ground up, trial by error. Made a lot of mistakes, not because we were ever dishonest or anything. We made mistakes because we just didn't know. It was ignorance, right? Like, we were A's at making records, but we were like novice at best at running a business.
Now, what about when it came time to making an agreement or signing a contract? How did you learn?
I read that. I did. I do know how to read, right? And I was taught that early to read. But the record business is a funny business, right? And what I'm going to say could get me into trouble. It's okay.
Okay.
But when there's a certain amount of desperation, you're willing to sign anything. And there are people out there that'll take advantage of that. And when we first started, you know, we signed a contract that wasn't the greatest.
Okay.
And if it wasn't bad enough, I remember when the people that we signed to came back and said, "We need you to sign something else," just because, you know, we didn't get your publishing in the first contract. I was like, "So you want to do a amendment and take the publishing? You didn't get it on the first time when we were desperate." So the point I'm making is that when you're desperate, but you see opportunity in front of you, there's many things that you'll do, especially if you think you have the strength to overcome it.
Okay.
And so a lot of times people sign things that aren't great, but it's because, not because they don't know, it's because they think they have the strength to overcome it. Like, I signed my first contract, but I knew that wouldn't be my last. So I was like, you know what, I'll sign this, I'll get in the door, I'll prove myself, we'll rip that up, and that's exactly what happened. Yeah, so
you learned by trial and tribulation.
I learned by reading, trial and tribulation, and just by sheer determination. You know, that I'm an animal at.
Well, and
I don't brag about much. You know what I'm brag about?
What can you brag about?
I'm more committed than anybody you'll meet.
I see that.
That's the difference.
I see that, and I also read that in your book. And you don't stop at failure. Like, you pick yourself back up and you go, it's going to be better the next time. We're going to do it this way, which is what has gotten you so far in this business.
And I encourage everybody to be that way. I really encourage everybody to don't get depressed, don't get down. You know, things won't always go your way, and sometimes those are just, you know, obstacles that are put in your course for you to learn. Mm-hmm. But just don't get down. Just kick right through it. You know. Like, I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan. We're in LA. I know he's retiring, but I'm a massive Kobe fan because the guy played like a couple of seasons in severe pain, as though he didn't have pain, and was winning. You know, and I love this guy because, you know, he just will overcome any obstacle. It kind of doesn't matter, you know, and I had dinner with him once, and we had that warrior conversation, and I was like, okay, I see what this guy's made of. I love him. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, you're a warrior yourself. Now, you see not only talent in artists, you see talent in people, and they don't have to be musical talent. You also saw the talent in the future of Barack Obama, who now is the president of the United States.
Yes.
How did you know when you met him or befriended him that he one day could run this country?
There was a couple of things that happened. One is I went to an event, and Senator Obama was there with his wife, and I just watched from across the room. I didn't know who he was. They said he was the senator of Chicago. Okay. I really didn't know who he was, but I watched from across the room, and I remember saying to my wife Erica, like, "That's a fascinating guy. Like, just watch him for a second." Okay. Right, and she was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." Then a couple years later, a good friend of mine in New York said, "Hey, why don't you come by? It's going to be a little bit late, but come by about 10:30, and this guy Barack is going to come by, and he just wants to ask us some questions." And there were about 5 of us. So Barack comes by 11 o'clock at night, and he says, "I just want to, you guys are business leaders, you're all successful in your field. I want to ask you guys about all the obstacles that you think I may encounter if I make a run at the presidency." And I was like, what? And then he had nothing else to say. He listened. From that point forward, he listened to all the advice we all gave him. But what struck me was when he walked into the room that night, I felt it was like the wind was blowing.
You had that feeling again?
I had that feeling like, okay, greatness just entered the room. Oh. Right? And it's just a feeling. I can't describe it. I can't explain it. But I was for sure like, this man is going to be the next president. So, and he called me after the meeting we had, and he said, "I would like for you to host my first New York City fundraiser." And I did it, and he says, "Beyonce's going to be there, right?" I said, "Of course Beyonce's going to be there, right?" You know?
Okay. I think that was either for the girls or Michelle, one of them.
No, he just really wanted me to bring out some celebrities.
I see.
Right, so Steve Harvey came, which was great, and Jay and Beyonce and many other friends came by, and I announced him as the next president of the United States. Wow. And he was still the senator, and he became the president. So I'm really proud. I'm proud of that one, you know. It's not like I didn't do anything except acknowledge that I thought he would be the guy, and he is the guy.
And that's sometimes, that's what it takes, just acknowledgement.